Welcome to Feedback Friday, everybody. This is where Tim and I review resumes and portfolios. If you're new here, we do this 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time every Friday. Every Friday, Tim and I are here hanging out with you folks. This is being live streamed on the YouTubes, which means if you're wanting to share it and present something that has sensitive data on it, for example, your phone number on your resume, you either have to be okay publicizing that with the greater world, or you may want to censor it before it gets to us. And those are really all the stipulations. There's a link to the YouTube channel in the chat if you prefer watching us on there or subscribing for the latest and greatest updates, whatever. Tim, any words you want to say that I haven't stated?
We do prefer to keep it to resumes and portfolios. The reason being that it can be very difficult to get the right amount of context to give good design feedback on products or things that are outside that realm. And so for today's call, even though you could reach out to Nate and I and ask us questions outside of this, we're just going to ask you keep it to your resume or your portfolio or some sort of like strategy element within that vein in general. We also have a great website. It's full of resources, guys. There's so many cool tools on here. We'll be featuring and showing this all throughout. The internet has a lot. The internet's a great place to find information, and we invite you to go find information. So if you find cool resources or stuff, feel free to put them in the chat as we go along. Nate and I will try to feature some of that too. But we also have our own that we can reference and show you how to use. Feel free to check these out at any time. Now, I think we're ready.
First on the list today, we've got Kelsey. They were hopping in here real early. Kelsey, put your hand up or Tim's going to find you either way.
I found you, Kelsey.
Hey there.
Hello, Kelsey. Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, I am a product designer. I'm based in Phoenix, Arizona. Tim, I think we
No
might have
way.
on the heat sink Discord. I went like 2 Wednesdays ago, and I think I heard about this through Chandra. So yeah,
Yeah, that's
yes, nice to
awesome.
meet you. Um, yeah, I've been a product designer for about 7 years. I before that was a graphic designer. I worked in publishing. Um, and I took a break. So I left my job a year-ish ago and coming back into career mode, and I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, a lot has changed. But I'd love a review. I haven't really been applying too much. Starting to do a little more networking. My only role in UX was GoDaddy, so I worked there for about 7 years. So all these projects are from GoDaddy. Lead, senior to lead roles is kind of what I'm looking at.
Thank you for sharing and thanks for being our first person here. I
Yeah.
was not at the lab 2 weeks ago, so I haven't actually met you in person yet, which is really a bummer. I need to go more often. I just have been staying up really late and therefore not waking up on time to do that kind of stuff.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
that's super cool. I love the lab too. Great. So 7 years. Are you actively looking for a new job right now, or are you just kind of passively, casually checking in?
Um, guess I am actively looking. In full honesty, I'm feeling like a big roadblock. Like I would like to be more active in it, and I'm kind of dragging my feet on doing it. So the answer is yes, but I haven't been applying a lot or doing a lot of the work to get out there.
Okay, totally hear it, and it can be exhausting. Um, And you said you have about 7 years of experience as a product designer, and you worked for GoDaddy. Now, before I say anything remiss, are you are you like are you a fan of GoDaddy then? Do you have loyalty to GoDaddy? Or is it just like another place?
It was a place. I mean, I had some really awesome, smart coworkers. I think the products were like if I were in my next role, I think I'd be looking for a place that has a little bit more design maturity. And what I mean by that is designers have more of a say at the strategy level. I think I work at more of a strategy level. Um, like if I on the bar, which I know now a lot of it's changing. I don't really have a specialty, but my last few years and where I leaned was more away from the visual side and the like I'm awful at motion design, for example. but I do lean pretty heavy in like the strategy research, like overall context of a product and how it works for the business and how we know we're making the right thing. Um, so I think in my next role, I'd be looking for something that's uh, design has that seat with the business leaders when making product decisions. Maybe a smaller company then. Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah.
Okay, very cool. Nate, do you have any other questions? Where do you want to take this?
I don't think so. Kelsey, I've written a bunch of notes here. I want to talk so much more about GoDaddy. We're not going to do that on this call, but GoDaddy is such a
Sure.
fun topic where there are a lot of strong opinions about GoDaddy.
Nate and I have strong opinions about GoDaddy. Correct.
I would love, yeah, we can chat. I'd love to hear it sometime for sure.
Yeah, another time. I don't think I have any other questions for you. I've written a bunch of notes. You mentioned, well, let's see. You mentioned that you are actively looking for jobs right now. Though it sounds like you've got some friction in regard to the quantity of jobs that you're applying for, like your excitement about looking for jobs. Tell me more about that
Mhm.
because there are job application strategies out there and targeting strategies. What do you feel like is currently holding you back when you're applying for jobs? What's the resistance there?
That's such a good question. It's really just me, I think. Like I think I just haven't jumped in and started. I've applied to one job. I did get a call back from that job, which was awesome. But I haven't
100% success rate. Done.
leave it there, right? I mean, I definitely not leave it there. I know I'm gonna get a ton of no callbacks. I just yeah, I think it's really just I wish I had a better answer for you, but it's really just me.
Cool. That's fine. That's a perfectly acceptable answer. I'm hearing that there's no problem we need solving there. It's just you um starting to like it's just you attempting to dive deeper into job searching, which is
Mhm.
a very easy thing to solve. So that's great. Let's dive into your portfolio then. I'm hearing that you're targeting senior slash lead UX roles. Now, I'm looking at your portfolio here. There's all kinds of different directions we could talk about here. Give us a couple of constraints here because I'm already seeing a bunch of cool things we could talk about. Is there a friction point that you're perceiving that's most holding you back in your application process?
Um, yeah, I love that you're crossing that out. I think let's see, anything particular? I mean,
Or would you rather
I
Tim and
do
I just look at the site and like choose a direction to go?
yeah, I guess maybe choose a direction. I don't know if I have anything specific I'm hung up on. Maybe if I could give you some things, but you don't have to follow them. Um, Visually, I'm very interested in like a minimal layout, as you can tell, but I do lean towards so minimal that I have been called like a little boring before with my style. So if something stands out to you that way, totally open to it. My case studies are more verbose than I've read I should be doing, but I when I had them less verbose, I almost found them harder to scan. So that was another friction point for me. And I think those are really the two uh, kind of the two things.
Nice. Tim, I'm hearing a couple of things I want to talk about then. I want to talk about positioning, value prop shenanigans. And then the other
Mhm.
thing that I'm hearing is we should also focus on enabling case studies to be scannable, regardless of length. And Kelsey, I'm also a big fan of verbose case studies. I think lengthier is the right sacrifice on the like scale of
Mhm.
advantages and sacrifices.
Cool.
Timony, so positioning, scannable case studies. Anything else you want to throw in there?
I definitely want to weigh in on the style here. Let me just say, Kelsey, you can totally do whatever style you want and it'll work. Boring, there is nothing wrong with minimal or boring. It's just about being powerful in your storytelling and communicating your throw line. So, one thing we'll probably end up talking about is exactly the underpinning message you want people to receive when they look at your portfolio, which does not need to be fancy UI. It doesn't need to be animated, 3D hover, tilt components that explode into confetti when a user looks at them or any of that kind of stuff. It's going to be about just having a strong identity that people can resonate with. or at least recognizes solving the problem that they're looking for. And we may not get to all of that, but I think, especially if you stick around, we'll talk about how identifying the problem for your audience and then leaning into that as part of your strategy really makes people connect with you and then trust you as well. So, Nate, take it away.
Cool.
Kelsey, I want to talk about positioning first, and I really like where Tim's going with the rhetoric around the aesthetic here. You've mentioned the aesthetic here is boring. I will argue boring is totally okay, if not desirable, depending on what your strategy here is. Have you ever had conversations about positioning yourself, choosing a target audience, and building a value prop based on that target audience? Anything like that?
No, not so much.
Is this Are you familiar with the concepts of like position and value props, or is this at a high level a novel concept for you?
Oh, yeah, I am familiar. I've read up on it. I think I don't think I focused that well on it when I made this, so definitely happy to talk about it. But I am familiar.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. There's an interesting nuance here that I want to talk about. Tim's got a solid screen open here. This is a utility we built that attempts to visualize the argument we're attempting to make. And the idea is we know that currently in the economic standard of the tech industry, we know that there are a lot of designers for a lot of designers, a large supply of designers for a very low supply of design jobs. And the consequence of that, of course, that we're all witnessing is that there are thousands of people applying for one possible job available. And with that extreme amount of competition comes the need to uh, find a method of differentiating yourself from that of competition. And there are lots of different ways we could talk about solutioning differentiation. One that Tim and I most frequently talk about is niching down. And this is a concept that will likely not be novel to you. You've probably heard about this a lot in your 7 years of history here. The idea is we know that because 1,000 people are applying for one job, that organizations are having to filter out for their ideal candidate. They've got the affordance to do that. So now the goal is, well, how can we differentiate you from that of the other 1,000 candidates, preventing you from being auto-filtered from the process? Niching is a solution. It's a strategy to solving that problem. Now, niching comes with a consequence. Let's say that we say, Kelsey, Kelsey is a product designer, a lead product designer that specializes in making dentist websites that focus on kids dentistry. Now that's one heck of a niche, right? It doesn't get much more niche in regard to industry, is that the benefit there being that when kids dentists need websites, they're going to find you and you have a real high chance of getting hired for that position. The sacrifice there being you are no longer well positioned to apply for other jobs available out there. Now, Tim, pull up that graphic again, because your reaction might be, or the typical reaction might be, well, can I generalize a little bit more so I can apply for those other jobs? But it's important to remember that the success metric here, the goal of your portfolio, is interviews. It's not amount of jobs or quantity of jobs available. So if the goal is getting interviews, there's this crux point where the more the how do I describe this? There's a balance to where there is a deep enough niche that differentiates you from that of competition, while also enabling you to get the most interviews available, even though it disregards other jobs. Feel like I worded that real abstractly. Kelsey, how you feeling about that? Is all of that making sense? How you feeling?
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. I don't know how I would niche myself, which maybe we'll get to that, but what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
Okay. The graphic that Tim's got on his screen here, the generic advice that this screen argues is that if we can choose for you a particular craft and a particular industry, build a value prop around those two things, will theoretically maximize the amount of interviews you get, even though we dwindle the amount of jobs you can apply for. And we can even go deeper than that. Like you see the very right hand side of this graph, the interviews you get skyrocket downward, but when you get those interviews, you're probably getting that job because you're a real niche and there's no way your competition can do it.
Yeah.
Choosing a niche, that's a real tough conversation. We've got a utility for that as well that attempts to assist with you finding your positioning. That said, I'm looking at your portfolio. You've got, if the GoDaddy is the experience you have and the one that you're able to showcase here, I'm
Mhm.
tempted to throw you into like the GoDaddy realm of things, high tech enterprise cloud IT infrastructure. And that's a perfectly applicable niche if you're feeling okay hanging out there. How you feeling about that?
I think I feel good about it in that like I feel comfy there and I could go back to work in there. But then I also feel like I'd want to try other places too,
What sort
you
of
know?
other
Like
places?
Mhm. Oh, what sort?
Yeah, what sort of other
Maybe this
places
is
you
where
thinking?
yeah, this is where I'm like the problem is me with applying to jobs sometimes too. Part of me has been really interested in like civic tech um kind of things. Like I think transportation is really fascinating. Anything that deals with like people kind of living like even like government stuff too, like voting or healthcare, I think can kind of fit into civic tech. Like healthcare, I think is fascinating. I think I think fintech can be kind of interesting too with how things have been changing. But see, I'm all over the board. I think startups is where I feel the least comfortable, but I don't know if that means that's not right for me. It's just where I feel the least comfortable.
Yeah, I love where your mind is at, and I love that you're attempting to find where a good niche might fit for you. Um, why, Tim, I've got thoughts here. I've been talking for a long time here. And the thought that I have here, Kelsey, is that we can find, like, let's say we choose a particular niche for you. We could then build another brand that represents Kelsey targeting a different niche. Additional effort there. But if your goal is to get a job as quickly as possible while also targeting multiple niches, that would be the solution I'd recommend. Tim,
Oh, cool.
walk us through what you're drawing here.
Um, Kelsey, have you heard of a vertical before?
Hmm. Yeah.
So if you wanted to switch out of niches, like say you've been, I mean not even say, but you've been with GoDaddy for quite some time, and say you're like, I really enjoyed my time with GoDaddy, but I recognize that being inside of a large corporate team means that I don't get a lot of strategy control. I want to do more strategy. You might say the design wasn't the style I wanted. Maybe it was very minimal, and I like a very loud design style, or whatever it is. The thing to do is then to evaluate your verticals to see what are the exact skills that I built up while I was there, right? So say I was at GoDaddy doing IT cloud design work. You say, well, what is the vertical that that's in? So there's IT as a vertical. You could probably broaden that to maybe more like high level corporate enterprise big package type things, maybe a little bit away from C to C, more towards like B to B in that case. You could lean, you basically just choose your verticals, your directions, and you learn how to package that into a message that will then harmonize with the other verticals you're looking at. So I think, for example, you could probably migrate yourself effectively over to healthcare if you were to consider what are the problems that a healthcare designer needs to work on, and what are the problems that you worked on previously that would overlap with that, and then leaning into those as your story mechanism. I don't work in healthcare. Nate does work in healthcare, but some of the constraints can be HIPAA compliance, right? So it's not about having like a fancy design. It's about literally designing for maximum privacy and safety. And you might be like, yeah, I actually designed around website things that emphasize safety and security and assurance. It's like assurance design is something that might migrate very well into healthcare. You might think, well, the stakeholders and the people I've worked with from a communication standpoint we're often in these positions of immense power or corporate decision making, high level business people. That could migrate really well over to a lead position under a healthcare industry. And so finding your verticals outside of your industry by breaking them down into soft skills or experientials, then taking those to repackage them and break into new niches. You don't have to choose a niche that's like your forever home, by the way. But when you do target a niche, it does help you constrain what your story is and it makes you more effective. We often remind people that your portfolio or even your resume is not like a legal background check. It's not a document that has to tell exactly everywhere you've been. And instead, it's an artifact that helps you communicate where you want to go and to get the door open for people who will interview, talk with you, see you as a human, see you as a designer, and understand the exact value you bring to a team like that.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
Tim, let's dive into a case study. Kelsey, I feel like we've talked a lot of theory. I want to make sure we get you at least a few actionables as well here. There are a couple of thoughts that I have in regard to case studies. Now, the other big bullet on my list here is scannable case studies. And let's talk about that first. Kelsey, there's a not so hidden secret out there that nobody reads case studies. Are you familiar with this? Like hiring managers, recruiters, no one's actually reading the thing. Is that familiar to you?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And we spend all this time writing these beautiful case studies for an audience of zero. There are what the typical flow is, whether you're a recruiter, hiring manager, or another design peer. The typical flow is they'll open up a case study and they'll skim through it. They'll turn on their scroll lock and they'll glide themselves through the majority of the case study. There will be occasions in which they'll find a particular section and stop and read that section, but then they'll go back to skimming afterwards. So then the quandary becomes like, how do we design and build case studies for folks that just skim case studies? How do we enable them to be consumable for skimmers? And there's two main methods that Tim and I will argue in achieving that. You have mentioned that your case study is potentially overly verbose. I don't think that's the case. There is an opportunity maybe to break up some of the text, but like at a high level glance here, I don't think the amount of text you have is a conundrum at all. There is potentially an opportunity to dive into more imagery here, and the objective is to make it closer to that of like a children's reading book, a children's picture book, than like a lecture or a documentary here. So like a couple sentences followed by an image, a couple sentences followed by an image. The hurdle that we're trying to solve here is that images are just so immensely communicative so quickly, and they're so persuasive at enabling somebody to glean an understanding while quickly skimming through it. And that's the goal of the imagery here. The more story we can tell in imagery, the better. And then the other thing is your titles. If someone's skimming through it, they're really only looking at the titles, the H tags, and the images. And the titles will want to lean into really heavy storytelling there. And the barometer for success here is if we erase all your body copy and only read the titles of your case study here, can we still glean an understanding of what the stories are trying to say? Now, I think your titles are actually kind of killing the storytelling vibe here. Like looking at Tim had just pulled up the screen that showcased some of these titles. A lot of them are really solid. Tunnel vision led to gaps in the journey. Trading more features for a better overall experience. Using service design to reduce hallucinations. Like you are telling a story here. And I really like that second one there. Trading more features for better overall experience. That dives into sacrifices here, which you really only find in high level case studies, including senior and lead level positions. So I love that you have that section included. So storytelling wise, I think you're doing great. An opportunity for more imagery. Tim, scroll down at the bottom. Do we have impact or metrics at the bottom of this case study? Impact.
No, we do not.
Cool. Another opportunity for you then in the impact section, when we're reviewing case studies, the impact section or some form of like success validation section, that's often the fulcrum point that positions away from mid-level into senior or higher level. So if you have the ability to add something like that in, how are you feeling about that so far? Do you have the ability to add a success metric validation section in here, or are the success metrics a little bit tough for you?
Yeah, no, that's a good call. The other two case studies have pretty clear numbers and they're just smaller projects. This one is that one's a tricky one because the impact was like I was brought into that project to help it reach a place where the team felt comfortable demoing to investors for like a certain timeline. So the impact would be the demo, I guess. Like it wasn't the numbers, I don't have any numbers on it specifically, but I do think it does need a stronger statement. And you know how sometimes you like rewrite or move stuff around enough where something gets lost, and I think that might have gotten lost a little bit.
Okay, cool. Do you have the
part of it.
ability to add something like that back in, or is this project kind of tough for that?
No, yeah, I could definitely add it back in. So that's great advice because you forget like what it's missed or left out. So that's perfect.
Cool. Okay. And then there's only really two other things I think are worth talking about. One is some sort of housekeeping at the top. Tim, if you scroll to the top, this is really for recruiters. The objective here is like, what was your portion of the process? What tools did you use? What was the team formation? SEO shenanigans here, and the goal is to match some of the keywords on the job description that you're applying for, and just toss them at the very top so the recruiter can, like, who doesn't know what you do or like how this works, they can see, oh look, this person uses Figma, and that Figma is written in the job description as well. It feels a little crass knowing that you're like of a high level, and saying that you use Figma feels very, very tactical despite your strategic targeting. But it's good for recruiters. And then the
Cool.
only
Yeah.
other thing I think is worth talking about, less for you, so Kelsey, and more for the chat here, is that Kelsey doesn't have a whole lot of process in their case study here. There's not a lot of UX practices. Now, most of the time, Tim and I will argue we should add some of those practices back in, except that Kelsey's targeting lead level positions, in which process is sort of assumed to be already known. So because you're targeting higher strategy, I don't think the process section missing here is as much of a red flag. When I say process, Kelsey, I'm describing the typical UX processes: empathy mapping, journey mapping, wire flows, wireframes, those shenanigans, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So for the high level position, I don't think that's an immediate red flag. The only thing that comes to mind here is that because there's so high competition out there, I'm fearful that you have principal level folk applying for lead level positions and lead level folk applying for senior positions. And because folks are applying for lower positions in their stature, those lower positions may still need some of those processes in place, at least visualizations of them. So food for thought. Like, if you, I know you're a targeting lead, like if you end up in your job search targeting a lower position like senior, we may want to add some of those process oriented stuff back in. But that's where my
Yeah.
mind's at.
Totally.
Kelsey, any arguments against any of that?
No, that makes sense. Yeah, and I think it was the part, those were the parts that I cut when I was feeling like they were getting too long. So I do have them, and I think that's very fair feedback. So,
Tim, challenge me
cool.
on that. Any resistance to not having those UX process visualizations, knowing she's targeting high level?
I think it's important to demonstrate reasoning. Uh, some of the biggest, I think the most attractive things about a candidate is someone who can identify problems and then communicate the story and the narrative of solving that problem and bringing them along. So, something I often invite people to do for their portfolios is to frame a problem and then to show why that was the solution they chose was the best solution in the whole wide world, making them the greatest designer of all time. And some of that is you don't need to actually be the greatest designer of all time in the whole wide world. But there is like the sense of if you're introducing me to a problem, I should feel very confident in the solution that you chose because you get the chance to tell me what exactly is the problem and what exactly did you do to solve it. And if I come away saying, well, she solved a problem, but she didn't actually solve the actual problem, then you probably have failed to address the problem correctly. This is also a really good way to test the measure of the problems that you're solving because if you start with a problem and then you do a solution and the solution doesn't really address the problem, you know you may have designed the wrong thing. Uh, so I think it's just an age-old design question of how do you choose the right problem and solution and then communicating that across. I would suggest this will be counter to Nate. So if you're looking for a second opinion here, I would actually suggest that these titles that you have here are not effective at communicating the way you have solved the problem for someone who is scanning. They lead more a little bit more like hooks rather than true descriptive like I don't want to say summaries, but like a overview. Like if I was scanning this, do I see and understand the value that you specifically have brought or what those trade-offs are? So like I love the concept like as a bullet point. Like you should have a section that is the context. But this section, this title here, context, does not give me a lot of context. I would love this to be maybe like a sentence that just explains a one sentence context and then uh some of the details of the context here. You have here tunnel vision led to gaps in the journey. I do think it's a powerful title, but if I'm scanning this, I don't see exactly what gaps there were in the journey or specifically what was leading to tunnel vision. And having a sentence here that instead of just describing that tunnel vision did this, telling me exactly the problem that was a tunnel vision or that were the gaps, being a little more specific in titles. And that's something I drill on pretty much everyone and even myself. Sometimes you can go too far. So I don't necessarily think that these are bad. I do think though that you might be leaving something on the table. If I'm scanning here and I'm like trading more features for a better overall experience, I'm like, oh yeah, that is a cool thing to say. But I would actually love to be able to scan here and see exactly what you gave up or how you knew it was going to be a better experience. What was motivating this decision making here? Or even using service design to reduce hallucinations. That's a very broad. This could be like its own case study in some places. The last thing I'll say is that in your case study, you have 6 images, I think. Image before, after. And it's hard for me to go here and to see that this is the before. I'm used to seeing a before and after side by side. And this
Mm.
could be a design problem that you'll have to solve a little bit differently for yourself. And you can totally leave this here on the table. But for me, I think if I'm scanning this, I do expect it to go before, and then these are the afters, especially when they look so different from each other, right? Like this is a very different active state compared to the state here. And I don't immediately recognize that this is actually the same interface. And so I think you should plan a way for users to get a better anchor of the exact work that you have done, just in case this UI becomes disqualifying for them. If they look at some of this and are like, yeah, this isn't really that good, they may have missed the part where this is the before, because it's not exactly clear that this is only before stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
just nitpicking though.
No, I love it. And I have a question about that because I've also thought about doing um, before and after in like a toggle. And I wanted to ask your guys' opinion on hiding one of the versions. So like you have the before first, and then you can toggle, or you have those like segmented controls. You can go to the next versions. What are your thoughts about having it in a component versus just stacking the images?
I rarely show befores on my website. One second.
Mm.
I can talk about this for a little bit too. I don't know where Tim's going with his story, so we'll come back to him. We've seen before after toggles on other case studies in the past. I will typically argue against them because if we know that our target audience is mainly scrolling and skimming through case studies, they will likely miss one of those states. And I'm fearful that if you default to the before, they end up missing the after states. But if you default to the after, then we're sort of missing the before after context anyway. So for skimming, I would argue against them. But I want to hear where Tim is going with it.
No, almost the same thing. I would just be really careful to not do something that is selective modes. This is actually the same feedback I have on your landing page here, is that
Mm.
you have states that are singular. So like you have here, this is the name of your case study. And then when I hover over it, I get the context. But in no way can I see the context for all of these at the same time. And so
Mm.
I'm by default, I'm missing information that would help me make a decision without interacting with it. And I would hate for the same thing to happen here, where you have states that require interaction before people can get the information that they need for decision making. Decision making, I should say, that's about Kelsey and how Kelsey is the greatest designer in the world. I rarely show befores. People tend to make decisions based on what they see. We know this visual bias, recency bias, and so even showing images of befores can bias people and give them an impression of something that may or may not be the case. Whenever I do a before and after, I will basically put it inside of its own little like component, and I'll be very isolated in terms of it. Like it'll be before just like this section. Like I won't show almost anything else, and it'll be right next to an after section, and I'll typically have like arrows or a breakdown showing the actual like teardown of why I did something different from a UI perspective. But very rarely do I show befores. I just it's just for me it's just a yeah, just a caution. It's just something I treat very cautiously.
Totally.
Everyone's a little bit different though. There are plenty of people who do befores and are successful. It's just something to be mindful of that if uh if you bury your afters in the middle-ish, people might end up missing them. They might settle for some of the very first ones they're looking at and spend their time looking at this before they realize they need to go farther for it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Kelsey, I'm looking at the clock. How are you feeling with everything? Any resistance to any of the above? Do you feel like you've got some actionables?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, you guys. I know, I feel like I'm hogging all your time, but this was great, and I definitely gonna look in positioning, gonna look at. I love the before and after because that is something I was kind of struggling with putting this together. Um, the title work. I think all of it sounds great. So yeah,
I have a
thanks.
couple of other quick things for you.
Yeah.
In your copyright, you have down here made with Claude and Next.js. Uh, you can keep it there. I mean, I just think your attribution should be you, right? You did do this. Next.js is a workhorse, but isn't making decisions. And I don't want to distract people from the truth that we're focusing on Kelsey, right? If we're saying this website has one goal, it is to sell me Kelsey, the product designer. And so I think reducing things that may distract from that is a good idea. Additionally, you do have a spot up here for your resume, and at the very bottom you have a spot for your LinkedIn. Very similar styles, but in very different places. I would probably drop I'd either duplicate them, so I'd probably LinkedIn up here, and I'd probably also bring the resume down here. So I just duplicate these because they can be high value areas for people, um, just in case. So I would duplicate those. Make sure they're in both places for people. Additionally, I did mark down here. Not a fan. Me, Tim Gailey, not a fan, strategy wise, of hiding information that helps make a decision under hover states, especially. And I saw on mobile, I was checking on mobile, you do have it. So you don't have to hover on mobile because you obviously cannot hover on mobile. But I would do the same thing for desktop, right? People are going to scan here. They might scroll down here and then uh, they may never realize that there is more to these case studies that they need to hover over and interact with. So I would just watch out for that. And then lastly, uh, may kind of mention this when we're choosing a niche. If we look at your statement up here at the top, you are definitely identifying yourself within the realm of generic audience. Well, generic designer, any design over here. And I would invite you to just spend some time writing your statement up here a little bit more like just add something to it. Help it feel very memorable. We often invite people to include a picture of themselves up here at the top, actually, for the reason that humans remember human faces and it helps them build up an identity of who someone is. And so having a strong visual element that makes you memorable can be in your favor when people are trying to make decisions about say 50 to 20 other individuals. And if you can stand out and be memorable, that can be very powerful. So either having something in here that's writing wise is very memorable, something that has a lot of personality to it, or or including maybe something up here that's a visual anchor that would be like, oh yeah, when I think of Kelsey, I think of this thing. That helps with our visual recall.
Cool.
Others just the quick stuff for you though, Kelsey. So that's it.
Awesome.
That's the quick one.
Love it. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate it.
Kelsey, appreciate you. Tim, next on the list, we've got sansei031. Also, my cat's currently standing on my tower and is dangerously close to stepping on that power button. Give me 1 second. Sansei, hello.
Hi, hi, I'm Sanya.
How's it going?
Okay. Oh, it's great. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Can you introduce yourselves to us and
Oh,
help us
yes.
get some context for who you are?
Yes, I'm Sanya. I'm a product designer based in Toronto. I am actively looking for jobs, specifically early career jobs in associate junior level, because I just graduated university and I'm having trouble fixing my resume and my website. So I need general advice on my case studies and my resume specifically. And yeah, that is why I'm here. I also in the process of like fixing my website as I go because I just finished it and I'm applying. I think it's been 2 weeks now that I've been actively applying. So I'm trying to fix things that are not working. So the responsiveness is not accurate at all. And there's some issues here and there that I'm trying to fix as I go. So yeah. So the bottom
Very
tile
cool.
should be it's not. I don't know why. It was working 2 days ago. I fixed something else and now it's broken. So that just I think comes with vibe coding. So I have to fix that.
They can indeed come with vibe coding. Okay. And then can you tell me more about specifically the type of role you're looking for?
Uh, Early career roles, just junior associate level for product design.
Just generally, just anything in that realm?
Anything, yeah. I don't think
Okay.
I have the privilege to choose specific industries because I'm targeting junior roles, and there's just so many. I've noticed that there are also not a lot of junior level uh, listings right now that are currently open. I've been looking at a lot of senior levels, but they still have the experience that they're asking for is still like 2 years or 3 years, but they're counting it as senior. So I'm not sure if I should be applying for them or not. But I do apply for them, like tailoring my resume. But I don't think that's getting me into the uh, or like capturing what I think I should be doing. I don't know. So I need help with that.
Okay. Okay. Well, Nate, where do you want to start?
Sonia, you have so many fun things here to talk about. We probably won't have time to look at high level portfolio stuff as well as resume stuff. Do you have
Hmm.
an area you'd rather us focus on? And it sounds like the resume may be the larger friction point for you.
Yeah, yeah, we can start with resume first.
Okay. Is it okay if we pull it up on stream? We are live streaming to the world. Is there anything sensitive on there you don't want to share with the greater world?
Oh no, I don't mind. I don't have my number on it, so it's fine.
Perfect. Congratulations on graduating, by the way. What a cool goal like you've accomplished.
Thank you. This is my base
Okay.
resume, so for every time I apply, I do tailor it according to the job description. But this is the general idea that
Okay.
I'm altering.
I mean, this is cool. There when we look at resumes, particularly that for entry level folks, there are typically a myriad of opportunities for bettering said resume. Your
Hmm.
resume at a high level and first glance doesn't have those red flags. You're doing a lot of stuff here really well and correctly.
I've attended a lot of feedback Fridays, so
Oh, fantastic. Okay, cool.
I fixed it.
Well, it looks great. I haven't dived into some of the content yet, but Tim, what are you seeing? Any low hanging fruit that you're seeing?
There is a couple of items that would flag for me. Now, these are not necessary. I would say, looking at this resume, largely, I'd say there's not a lot for me to be like that. I would look at it and be like, oh yes, this is definitely wrong, or this is definitely a problem. So take
Hmm.
today as we talk about this as like ways to optimize, maybe improve a little bit, but knowing that there's probably not like a silver bullet for your resume in particular because you've already spent the time working on it. Um,
Hmm.
I would say we have you at the top. We have your name, full or small caps, small caps. Small caps and all caps can be kind of a weird format. I might
Hmm.
be careful and just make this normal sentence case uh,
Okay.
or title case in this sentence. But I don't know if I'd lean into this. I'm not sure every single ATS system is going to be able to parse the script. We haven't even talked about our
Mhm.
ATS system. Okay, when you're applying to a job, uh, so you want a job. Typically, what you do is you apply to a job, and then the very first thing you hit is called an ATS system. And then after this, you hit a human reviewer. Human one. This ATS system, it is like the Terminator. It has no feelings. It will never stop. It will never give in to your emotional wants. It cannot be bargained or negotiated with. All it
Mhm.
does is it looks at a bunch of keywords, uh, sometimes a job description, and then it looks at your resume, and it basically makes an index and says how good of a fit are you. And then sometimes that is a good enough fit that you are high enough to be passed over to the human, and sometimes you do not pass. And there's specific keywords or things that they filter you out by. The
Mhm.
ATS system, it consumes your resume. And so, largely, when you think about like the biggest drop off, when you think about how many people apply to jobs, sometimes you have like 1,000 applicants applying to a job. But the first person who wants to talk to people may only want to talk to like 100 people. And so when you're thinking about like with the percentile of drop off between this, is usually the ATS is the biggest like area where people get weeded out or filtered out by. So optimizing your resume for the ATS is strongly recommended, especially because the robot will read your resume. The human might scan your resume, but they're not going to take apart every single bullet point you have here. That is the job of this ATS system. So when we talk about how do we make a resume, we have to make sure it is optimized for a robot to read it. In this case, a very dumb robot that might even just copy paste it, or it might take a screenshot and then look at it that way. How they ingest PDFs can be a mystery because they're all different systems that all work different
Mhm.
ways, which is not frustrating to people applying to jobs at all, or anyone who's ever had to fill out a Workday application system where you have to fill in every single form like 100 million times. Uh, it's terrible, but they all have their own system. So I would just watch out. I don't know if your name will format correctly. In some ATS systems, it might put
Actually,
your
it's
name as
actually
all caps.
no, you're actually accurate because I have been uploading my resumes and then it fills in the details for you. And sometimes it does it in caps lock, or sometimes it puts like my last name and my middle name. I think I should fix that, yeah.
Yep. So that would be that'd be one tell. So just making sure you fix that here. Second
Mhm.
thing, you have up here your location, your location,
Yeah,
and it's separated by these big bullet dots. I
yeah.
think I'd recommend either using what's called a pipe. It's like that tall
Mhm.
line symbol on your keyboard, or
Yeah.
I would recommend just using a comma. The thing about
Okay.
bullets or dots is that they can get read as a list format, and so it's
Okay.
possible that when it autofills, it may send this information to the wrong spot inside the form or application. Uh,
Okay.
and I also wouldn't lead with your portfolio here because it might take this whole thing as your portfolio, and then it might say the address is portfolio colon space and then this here. And this would obviously, if I was to just go to this web address, this would be an invalid web address. So I'd watch out for
Okay.
that. I think you can probably drop the portfolio here. Your location, Nate will probably talk about location. Uh, as a preview, we did look at location as a positioning metric over here, which can
Mhm.
sometimes be tough. Uh, and then I do wonder about these sections down here, Nate, because they're indented projects under one big project, and I don't know if a lot of parsers will read this correctly and may like accidentally sort these as different jobs rather than as a single one.
I don't have a strong opinion in regard to how the ATS would process that, but I do have an opinion on how a human would read it, and I think you simply just don't need those sections anyway. No need to delineate between individual projects within an organization. Just remove those categories, keep the bullets as they are, and that's perfectly applicable to a human reading a resume. That's totally fine.
Okay, because I did that because in my portfolio website, there are two case studies, and the two case studies are based on these two different experiences. And I thought maybe differentiating them would help. But I guess it makes sense to just have the 5 points as one experience.
Yeah, that's an interesting mindset. Let me throw a different perception at you. So, if I am reading this as a hiring manager and I see two
Mm.
projects, I think, oh, they've only done two projects, and that could
Okay.
factually be accurate. If you haven't categorized them, I'm going to assume you've done more projects than just two because the majority of people
Mm.
have anyway. So, by listing the projects, you're actually reducing the perception that folks have of you.
Okay.
You're
Thanks.
also limiting the type of work you're targeting. Like, it's possible that you worked for Bitcoin dev projects, and a
Mm-hmm.
crypto guy's like, "Oh, I love for a designer who's done that to work with me, but I'm not doing website design, and I'm also not doing transcription review." And like, "Oh, well, this person does transcription review and website design for Bitcoin, but I don't need either one of those." And then you've
Okay.
accidentally out niched yourself. Um, so
Okay.
that's also it's also a good thing. So just be on the caution on the watch out for that. At the
Okay.
top, before we move away, Nate, I do think we should talk about summaries. Uh, Summaries. Almost any AI system will recommend that you put a summary at the top of your resume. And Nate and I are here to tell you that is bad advice. Don't listen to AIs that tell you to put summaries at the top of your resume. The reason being that the summary section summarizes the content that you want them to read. So, would you rather that they read one quick sentence about who you are, or would you rather they looked at the words that you've carefully written that include all of your analytics and data and your results and your process all under one thing? And I would submit you probably want them to read down here. And then this also gives you more space to talk about this. The summary section can be powerful when you need a human reviewer to look at stuff. And typically humans are not looking at resumes. And so it's just not like a high yield. When we've talked to other recruiters or other leads, people who hire designers, they've also like confessed like this is just not a high yield section. And if you have the space, I guess you can put it on there. But really, if you have the space, then you should spend more time improving your other sections for them to be a little bit more to be more comprehensive, a little more substantial. And there's just not a lot of times when a summary section is going to be the thing that makes or breaks it for you.
Okay. If I leave the summary out, I will have a lot of negative space. Do I add more skills? Do I add more projects? Or do I elongate the bullet points then? And if I'm elongating the bullet points, is it too much information to read for the resume for the hiring manager? Or am I just adding fluff then to cover the
I
space?
would I would counsel you don't add fluff. I think Nate is going to take us through. I don't know what Nate's actually plan. I'm not going to speak for Nate. I would hope though we get some time to talk about some of these bullet points because bullet points like this or like this, I would consider to be fluff. And I would say these are fluff because they don't communicate anything specific to me, but you could
Mm-hmm.
easily turn each one of these into 3 or 4 bullet points that are not fluff. And so
Thank you.
I would say remove this summary section and then take
Mm-hmm.
some of your bullet points and just rework them, spread them out a little bit, not to like build fluff or just eat white space. Like it's okay to have a little bit of space, but I think you're leaving a lot on the table already with some of these bullet points, and there's a lot more to the story for every single one of these, and making them something more. Especially, I mean, you look here. This is December to May. Uh, it's like 6 months. 6 months
Yes.
described by 2 sentences.
Yes.
There's definitely way more to talk about here that would be valuable and communicate yourself better.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Actually, this is one of the experiences that I don't know how to alter because during those 6 months, it's all of this is also open source community. So a lot of work you do doesn't get shipped, and a lot of work you do takes a lot of time for and back and forth with the person who's in lead. They looks at the work and then reviews it and then approves it. So I also don't have a lot of work for this specific experience. I did work for 6 months, but there's not a lot of work to show for. So I was struggling to write things for this. And I think this could also be one of the stronger experiences because of the company and the work they do. So I'm a little confused as to how to cater to that.
Tim, I've got some thoughts on the resume here, and I don't know where the best place, what the order of information is here. Now, I want to comment on something real fast here. I no longer have like super strong opinions on that uh, professional summary section at the top. I am at a place where I feel like I've got so much, like the idea is you gain more knowledge on a particular thing, therefore your confidence of that thing goes up. You've got the ability to understand and comprehend it so great that you've got comprehension and confidence and able to speak to it. I feel like with the professional summary sections, I'm going the other way. The amount of knowledge I have in professional summary sections is now great enough that I could see the argument go in either direction, and I don't know what the right answer here is. I have two thoughts that come to mind, and Sonia, the rhetoric behind Tim and I's argument here of that not having these professional summary sections is that more. The long story short is we think they're a waste of space in comparison to the other stuff on the resume. Tim, I've got a conspiracy theory for you. These summary
Okay.
sections, we know that what are they called? Cover letters are somewhat out of style. And the professional summary section could be the solution toward not having cover letters. And then the conspiracy theory I have for you, Tim, is that these ATSs, do they now have the ability to summarize individual resumes as quick blurbs so the hiring manager doesn't read resumes anymore, they read quick blurbs? And if so, does a manually written professional summary manipulate what that AI summary states? There's the conspiracy for you. Sonia, more research needs to be done there.
So
Okay.
okay, so point number one, when it comes to communicating yourself, you want to spend your real estate on the things that matter most. and a summary can take away from the actual quality of the content. Then point number two, if someone is summarizing your resume, you might as well be the one to control the summary. So the summarizer uses your summary instead of
Mhm.
them making their own summary.
That's the
I
argument.
do see that point. I can see that point. That all stems on the idea, though, that someone is summarizing resumes, then using those summaries to make a decision about resumes. So that does seem to be a little like I think it goes back to like our chain here, which is when you're applying to a job, who's making decisions? And like we apply a job, lots of people apply. It goes through an ATS system which helps to filter out candidates and passes on a selective list to the first reviewer. This reviewer does not usually know what a design job is. They're usually just a person whose job is to help make a choice. They're not necessarily paid well. They're not necessarily compensated well. They may not even know or ever have talked to someone who is a UX designer or product designer. But once they approve some list or say the AI got it right, they pass off to another human, which is typically a recruiter. Sometimes there is no second human, and the recruiter is the first human. And I don't know. I guess every process is going to be different per company, but I would still hazard that the make or break is just make the ATS system happy enough that you get to this human who's going to look at your portfolio work a little bit. But man, it's tough. It is tough. That's a good conspiracy, Nate. That's an impossible one to ever know. Are we building summaries for them to summarize, and therefore we control the summaries if we summarize first?
A
So
summary for the summary.
yes.
Sonia, all that to say, Tim and I will agree that there are a lot of ways to do professional summaries wrong. There might be ways to do them correctly with benefit. We don't know what that looks like entirely yet. Therefore, we think the correct argument, if in doubt, just remove the summary and replace it with the real content. There's one last
Okay.
thing, Sonia, I want to talk about here, and I'm looking at the clock. Well, Tim had briefly mentioned about bullet point formatting here, and there's an opportunity here. I do want to first mention your resume, I would argue, is clearly in an optimization stage. I think you've done a lot of stuff here really well, and now it's like tweaking. Can we get it from 80% to like 85%? I think you're doing a lot of things here correctly and effectively. Tim, I'm going to add a link
Okay.
here in the chat. Tim and I have a site, designshape.com. There are a bunch of resources on that site. However, those resources are typically built by either Tim or myself, and we test them on our own platforms first. And then when we're confident in them, we throw them at Design Shaped. And this is that stage that this resource is in. So like this is a resource I'm currently building. It's not in a final state yet, and I'm still dabbling with it. So I'm passing this link off to you cautiously, but I think it's in the right direction. And what I'm trying to get to here is your resume's bullets they have one sort of like theme flaw with the majority of them, and that is they are not describing the why behind all the bullets. And if we just go like Tim, just go to the first one. Mapped and redesigned for end-to-end user flows, transcript discovery, blah, 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 identifying friction from developer-first terminology. All that's great. Skipping to the end, developer based on user impact and development effort. Like those are all things that UX design does. And this is maybe factual to you, except that we're missing like, why did you go about doing this thing? And if I were to throw just an example at you, could we append something like, so we could improve conversion rates by 14%? Like that validation at the very end, that's the reason why you would do this thing. That's the goal that you're attempting to accomplish. And the rest of the bullet is sort of just describing UX design in a nutshell. So where we're trying to go with this is, at the moment, your bullets, while totally accurate in depicting the things that you have accomplished, are missing all the benefits of why a company would want to hire you for. And that's what, Tim, if we go back to that link that I provided, that's what this resource is attempting to walk you through. Scroll down just a little bit, Tim, here. This is a section that's dedicated to like, hey, all you have to do is fill in this little information here. So like, what did you do? That first text field there. If you type in some information there, it's going to attempt to build you a bullet point here that follows the format of I accomplish X as measured by Y by doing Z. And this is a formula of writing bullets that was written by a guy named Laszlo Block, part of the Google team. We had a guest on a couple of
Mhm.
sessions ago talking about it. If you could find a way to force every single bullet into the I accomplish X as measured by Y by doing Z formula, you will have
Yeah,
no
yeah.
choice but to write really awesome bullets. There's a
Thank
lot
you.
more we could say about writing things like this, but how are you feeling about that so far? Are you feeling like that's potentially actionable for you?
Yes, I actually do tailor my resume according to the XYZ format. I don't think this resume is that, but I'm gonna work on the one that is on my website as well.
You've heard of this
I also
format
wanted to,
before.
yes, I have,
Very
yes.
cool.
So, and also another thing, a lot of the bullet points do not have concrete metrics, as in I don't have numbers for them. Because, for example, the first one you're reviewing, the design was handed off, but it was never shipped. Because it's an open source community, they do it on their own timeline. It wasn't shipped, so I don't have metrics for that. The idea was to make it faster, and I have just like testimonies from the developer who worked on it, but that's about it. And then the website redesign, I do have metrics, so I have them written down. So that is also another problem.
What is Tim doing? He looks like he's looking for something to throw.
I'm canceling all of my plans today, Nate. I'm gonna go write that resource for this.
Uh,
I've said this like for the past year that I was gonna do this, and I just have not done it yet. So
Someday.
today,
Is today the
today we'll
day?
do it.
Was this the catalyst?
Today's the day.
Sonia, you have forced Tim to build a thing. Where we're going with this, Sonia, is what Tim, you're feeling impassioned at the moment. Talk about metrics.
Um, I the short version is you don't need metrics. What you do need is to demonstrate value. Saying that you mapped and redesigned for end-to-end user flows is a thing, but it's not valuable inherently until you attach value to it. So,
Mhm.
depending on who your audience is, you would change how you format this, right? If you were speaking to like another designer, you're like, yes, I am valuable because I know how to do really cool UI design. That might pass. If you're talking to a project manager may not care about how things look. They're going to care, did it work? Did it perform a function? When you're talking to a hiring manager, they want to see, do you have certain skills? And then is the work that you do actually valuable? Does it go somewhere? And so it's always about figuring out what exactly is the value that people are looking for and then connecting to it. And sometimes it's metrics and sometimes it's not metrics. For resumes, it's often going to be quantifying that value into something that is discernible to the reader. So mapping and redesigning for end-to-end user flows is, I don't want to be mean when I say this, but I would say this is a very, very weak premise here. And this is definitely
Mhm.
like the definition of fluff. All of
Okay.
these are fluffy. These are very fluffy because they say an activity that you did without
Yeah.
communicating any value or way for me to measure the quality of the work that you have done here, which is leaving
Okay.
so much on the table because you're asking me to judge. Hey, is redesigning for end user flows a good thing or a bad thing? And for
Yeah.
me as a reviewer, like I'm probably gonna say like, sometimes like someone put 8. Someone put 8, and that's more valuable than 4, probably. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Instead,
Yeah.
you need to be the person who decides the value by telling me directly what the value is. Business, product design, everything comes back to strategy and communicating your process, your thinking. You made a decision here, and I don't see why you made the decision.
Mhm.
The resource I'll build will talk a lot about this process. Hopefully we'll talk about this process effectively. I'll make sure to do some work to make it nice. But this idea of like we struggle to value our own work correctly because we don't know the right language for it. Um, but deep down, I think we do know. We redesigned something with 4 end-to-end user flows to make this better for the user. And we know that making stuff better for the user is better for the product. What's better for the product is typically better for the business. And so we just now need to connect the dots. This is better for the user. Why? Making it better for the user is good for the product. Also, why? And why is that
Mhm.
better for the product, good for the business? And just creating the thorough line. And even if you don't have hard numbers,
Yeah.
you should already know at least a little bit about this. You're at your user flows. How many people are going to interact with those user flows? anything about what's the surface area here? Is this like 100 people are going to use this, 1,000 people a month? You're like, oh, well, if a
Mm-hmm.
thousand people a month see, or even we'll go 100, 100's gonna be easier. I don't want to do math, but we say like 100 people every single month interact with these
Yeah.
four different surfaces, you're changing
Mm-hmm.
effectively 400 user like pathways. And if you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
well, we know when users go these pathways might lead to conversion, they might lead to churn, they might lead to maybe they subscribe longer, maybe they give feedback, maybe they find stuff, and then you turn that into, okay, what does each one of these do? If one of these user flows is I improved the purchase or checkout experience for this user flow, and 100 people go to the purchase screen every single month, you are
Mm-hmm.
improving your ability to adopt and like convert users like substantially. And so you have to learn how to like communicate that. And you don't have to say like absolutely 1,000 people bought this product because of my design, but you do need to learn how to
Yeah.
say like this impacts this much revenue. Like if this user flow, if our business makes $1,000 a year, which is kind
Mm-hmm.
of low, but $1,000 a year, and
Okay.
we do 100 people come here, then you're measurably improving this by like a certain percentage. What is that percentage? What does that number actually move? What is that worth? And then quantifying that back to us on your resume. So a reviewer or someone else who's looking at this is like, yes, this designer understands how to talk about themselves and how to like communicate the actual value of their work. And that is design. Unfortunately, design is all about communication. And sometimes the communication is like making it look nice. And sometimes the communication is about how do I invisibly tell the user what the next choice should be by making it look intuitive. Or sometimes the design is how do I help this manager or this leader believe that this design choice will make a difference. And that's why we should make this choice on the team. So
Okay.
there's so much here, but and this is not directed at you, but it's really frustrating that so many designers are unfortunately like it's really frustrating that so many designers are in this position where they're under equipped to talk about their value because they think we're
Mm-hmm.
so valuable. There's so much happening here that we should know about, and people, I think we often forget or neglect this skill or fail to communicate it in mentorship or other structures that would teach someone how to defend themselves or their own work. So, Nate, I'm gonna do it. We're gonna do it. So,
Heard it here. He's doing it. Sonia, I'm looking at the clock. We're going to have to skedaddle here. I don't know that we gave you. Are you feeling like you've got the capability to go back to these bullets and add success metrics to them? Or was it a lot of high level abstract theory that's not providing a little actionability just yet?
Oh no, it was very useful. I think I can really fix the bullet points, specifically the first few ones, and I do have action points. Yes, thank you.
Excellent.
I do wanted a review on my portfolio website as well. So would that be possible next Friday if I can come again?
Would love for you to come back. Happy to take a look at that
Um,
and appreciate you being willing to come back a second time. That'd be fantastic.
okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, super appreciate you being willing to hop up here with us. Tim, next on the list, we've got Diesel. Diesel, it's been a little bit. If you're still out there, oh my gosh, look how quick you are with the draw. Appreciate you folks hanging on today. We normally get to 5 today. Today might be a 4-person day, which means next up we'd have Suneha. And then Marcus, you are right on the edge, but hopefully we're going to be able to get to you today. Ria, it's looking real unlikely.
Yeah, hi. So first timer here at Portfolio Friday, so happy to be here. And yeah, so basically like it's 2 a.m. and I'm a little bit under the weather today, so I hope you'll forgive me for like having like a little bit of a raspy voice today. Yeah, but yeah, happy to be here.
Fantastic. Glad you could be here. Give us some context about who you are and what's the problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah, okay. So like I've been doing design for like around 4 years now. And so I currently position myself as a digital designer and creative technologist. And my highlights are like 2 years at a design agency as a UI UX designer and 2 more years as a solo product designer at a climate tech B2B startup. So yeah, and I think My problem was like I haven't really been able to like find a job for over like the past year or so, I would say. So about a year ago, I put up a portfolio that was full of like case studies, so like problem, process, decision, so the whole arc. So what you're seeing on the screen here is actually something that I just like released like around 2 weeks ago, because like the old one got almost no traction. And I don't mean just like the organic ones that people do from searching, but like I think I applied to a lot of like roles, a lot of like different nuances and stuff, but like I don't see like the numbers actually like seeing any change in the statistics or whatsoever. So I was just, so like my assumptions were like people aren't really keen to like read my case studies for some reason. So around like 2 weeks ago, I rebuilt it into something that more suits me right now, because like I'm basically switching from like a product design role, a full on like B2B product design role, to something that's a little bit more broad, I would say. So the positioning is a little bit more on the lanes of like design technologies. And it's early, so I don't really have a real signal yet whether the switch is working. But like, yeah, that's where I'm at right now currently.
Interesting. You've given us a lot of detail there. What's your goal with the website? Are you applying for jobs currently?
Yeah, I am. So again, like I've been unemployed for like almost a year now. So I've been actively job hunting practically since last year. And yeah, so I think the problem was that, no, I don't think I can't say that as a problem because I haven't really validated it yet. But like what I'm sitting with right now is that I've landed somewhere in the middle. So I'm not quite reading as like a full studio or agency designer, which is like the direction that I'm actually heading to with this portfolio that you see right here. But I'm not also quite reading as a dedicated product or UI UX designer either. So I'm somewhere in the middle. And I genuinely, maybe this ties into the positioning thing that you guys were talking about like just now. And I genuinely don't know whether like my problem is like a positioning one that I need to fix, or like I'm just applying or like I'm just applying to like the wrong shape of roles for like, what the portfolio is actually is right now. So like I guess what I love feedback on is like looking at this is just like where does this actually read as sitting, and does that mean like the middle ground is like my weakness, or like is it just a value that I'm under communicating in general?
Ooh,
Yeah.
big thoughts. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a couple clarifying questions. When you say you've been unable to find a job, what specific market have you been putting yourself out into?
Yeah, so like I think about a year ago, like I was still applying for roles that fit and is more in line with my previous job, which is like a B2B product design. But like over time, like I think it's becoming more apparent like over like the past 6 months or so, like uh I'm actively like switching into that designer slash creative technologist role, because like I've learned on how to actually ship products. And my latest projects have been like me actually actively shipping like end-to-end products. Like for example, like my latest work that I put in my portfolio is like a digital interactive map that I've shipped from end to end, and I've actually like basically got involved in like from the start to finish until it's live. And I think I personally like enjoyed going into that direction, and that's where I'm trying to head into. But again, like there's also that kind of like uncertainty whether like that's the actual direction that's concrete enough for me to take.
Okay. Okay. Ooh. Um, Nate, where should we take this?
I think what's calling me out the most here, Diesel, what's a good name to refer you by?
So you can call me Vincent actually. Like that's my real name. So Diesel is just like my Discord handle.
Vincent. Am I saying that right?
Yeah,
Vincent?
yeah. That's
Got it.
correct.
Okay, cool. My mind's going a couple directions here, and I'm totally hearing that you're a professional in this industry. So, like for me, my mind is like, hey, we're two designers, three designers with Tim. Can we like figure this out together? And where my mind is at is, it sounds like a positioning conundrum in the sense that I don't know that myself or potentially the world knows what a creative technologist is, and I'm fearful that if
Hmm.
that's the role you're targeting, I'm fearful that there's not a whole lot of comprehension on what that role is, and B, I'm fearful there aren't any jobs. There aren't like a lot of jobs available for that role. Give me
Mhm.
challenge me on that. How is that feedback sounding to you? Is that am I isolated here? Does everybody know what creative technologist means?
No, I think in practice, like I think the term like creative technologies itself isn't really something that's most commonly known. I think to most people, and I think like I've actually like consulted this to like several other experts as well. So, but like, I think like my assumption is that, and again, like this is just my assumption. I don't really have enough samples to work with, but like I assume that the term like creative technologies is just like an umbrella. So like I think different companies and different individuals would like put that kind of like job desk into like their own different terms and meanings. So, for example, like some would call it like a digital designer, like some others would call it like a product designer or like creative designer. Like I don't know. Like I think I'm somewhere in that line of thought, just in general, I would say. But yeah, I think you're right on cue actually. So like, just to tell you a story, like I think the 2 weeks that have been passing by ever since like I released this portfolio, I've been wondering like, am I like what kind of job title should I actually be applying? Because like I'm getting like more uncertainties like day by day, just by like I don't even know how to define myself. That's so to say.
What here? Let's do a little quick test, quick little measure here in the chat. We've got folks chiming in on their perceptions of creative technologist. One person is describing essentially a designer and a developer. Is that resonating with you?
Yeah, I would say, but like, so I think yes, I would say that, but I wouldn't really lean into like the developer part of it because like, I do have some basic capabilities with like front end roles because I'm used to like directing front end directions in my previous company, and I've also like worked on like small time front end projects, but I wouldn't really call myself expert enough to like be able to call myself like a full time engineer. So I'm technically still
Interesting.
a designer.
Yeah, because we've also got
Yeah.
in the chat design engineer, UX engineer. So I'm hearing that like we
Mhm.
don't have common definitions or common a universal standard for that title. Therefore,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't know if that title is going to be effective for you as you're positioning yourself for applying for jobs.
Mm.
You said something
Yeah.
else. Were you applying for jobs at like larger companies, or are you going the agency route?
I'm trying to go on like the agency and studio route, but again,
Building
like
your own.
there's a lot of like nuances like applying there because like again like
Sorry, I worded
teams
that
are.
poorly. Were you trying to get a job elsewhere, or were you starting your own company? Were you freelancing, starting your own agency?
What like over the past year or something like.
Well, I'm trying to figure out: are you applying for jobs that already exist, or are you going the freelance route?
Oh, I'm definitely like trying to apply for like jobs that currently exist, but again,
Got it.
like they go by different names, like wherever I apply.
Okay. In my mind, Tim, and please interrupt me when you feel is right. My mind, this is a positioning conundrum, and I just don't think that the jobs available in the market right now are assisting the positioning of creative technologist. Challenge me on that, Tim. How you feeling?
I think a creative technologist is best suited for startup type companies and for people where AI is one of their primary tools in launching a product. Creative technologist is also going to be effective when they need a consultant at a larger company. So this would be like a mid-size sort of company that has maybe a dedicated team. They're looking for a consultant or someone to come in and help them address a particular problem case where they need maybe some structure or a little bit of advice in like team management. Those are things I would typically see creative technologist excelling the most within and kind of being niched in for. That's been my experience working with them, interacting with them in general. Uh, I I don't know if that's the right title for you either. I actually have I'm a bit a little bit distracted. I'm gonna let Nate continue the conversation here. I'm looking at your site though, and I have so many questions and impressions that I think may be interesting to you when we wrap back around there. But that's where I am right now.
Well, I think it might be time to wrap back around because we've talked a lot of like abstract theory. I'd love to dive into some tactics here.
Okay, cool. Your portfolio, or we know generally a portfolio has two goals. Portfolio goals with exclamation point. Goal number one is it has to introduce yourself. Introduce you. And then the second thing it's supposed to do is defend or show what we call value. And again, that word value is like so tricky because there's lots of ways for value. But if we're thinking about this goal, one, if I go to your portfolio, I want to know who you are. And then two, I want to know why should I care? Why should I love you? And choose you and make you the person I'm looking for. And so inherently, we have this idea of introducing you. You set the frame. One, you need to know your position. So this is like you have to be foundational. You need to know which mountain you have climbed and put your flag on for other people to see. And the second thing is defending, showing your value is you need to know the problems that the people who come to your website have, and then you need to share exactly why you solve those problems and how your fix is impressive. I was going to draw a wrench. I don't know if I know how to draw a wrench though. It's kind of like a oh wait, it's
Yeah, it's like a U shape, right? Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of like a they often got this like weird kind of curve here. Kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So why your fix is superior, and so these two things here, I this is what I'm looking for. When I come to your website, I actually the impression I'm getting here on your website, which is very lovely, by the way, it's very crafted in like an artisan way, and so I'd assume that you're someone who's very thoughtful, very caring about the work. You put a lot of time into it. I'm also seeing though, it looks a lot. These illustrations. I'm assuming you did these illustrations.
Yeah, yeah, I did.
They're very cool. I like them a lot.
Thank you.
They're very, very cool. But I do think it may give away the impression that you're actually an illustrator or someone who's more on the graphic design side. So I see two worlds here. We have these wonderful forefront illustrations that are very like intentionally put together, and then we kind of have the framer carousel in the background, showing a couple gifs and images that don't necessarily harmonize. So you see, I have like two different worlds here. And the other problem I experience is I have nothing in here that introduces me directly to you. So I don't have anything that says, and introductions happen in different ways, right? But I am missing something that says, "Hi, I'm so and so," or "Hi, I do this specific job title." Right? Right
Mhm.
now, it's very ambiguous because I see product world, like a cinema, and then I also see illustrator world and handcrafted world, and it feels like these are two different competing worldviews, and I'm not sure which one to go into. The other thing here is I do think beyond this like general friction of introducing you, I do think there is maybe some friction in experiencing the website. There's like a lot of places where you have these wonderful interactions. Like, look at this. This is so cool that you have this here. Again, that thoughtful, intentional design. At the same time, it's only triggered under very specific circumstances, and I might just miss it. In which case, there's a lot of white space, and then a lot more white space. Um, and I think I don't know. There's a couple of things that just for me don't add up in the way someone would use this website. And I think they may miss the overall value of you because it is a little bit higher friction to use this. That's besides the positioning point. So coming back, I don't feel like I understand who you are yet. And then your value, I'm also not necessarily understanding your value right away either. You have in here some pictures here, right? You have the atlas, a little hard to read. It says product design over here if I'm looking really hard for it. But at the same time, it's not quite apparent to me yet what each of these are and why I should care about them yet. So far, they look a little bit disconnected. This one seems the most like you because of the illustration point, but they
Mhm.
don't necessarily feel uh, oh, I guess the cat as well. They don't feel necessarily cohesive together. I don't see you introducing me to this idea. When we're on a website, I'm going to use Nate's website because Nate will be okay with it. Every website's going to be different. You're going to have to follow your own thing, but like usually having a strong visual is very good. You have strong visual identity up here, right? That's not a problem. The problem is that I don't know what to do with his visual identity yet. Nate frames his visual identity. He says exactly what he does. Then we get down here. We have his case studies, and they're all framed around problems. So, problem is recovery. Problem is design systems. Problem is mental well-being. And then like thinking about how does he introduce this idea? He has like some small introduction things, a couple of chips that qualify and quantify what someone would be looking for. So that would tie into if I know that my problem is on my team is like, oh man, we have a design system and we have 100 designers. And I don't know how to build a design system for 100 designers. If I come to Nate's website, it's like, oh, design systems at scale. It's like, oh, okay, well, maybe this would be something that would solve my particular problem. when I come to your website. I love the vibe and the feeling of it. Uh, I don't see the value though. Right. This doesn't tell me what kinds of problems you're solving. It doesn't give me any sort of introduction to your skills, other than being a very aesthetic picture, like red brick. That's pretty goated. That's pretty cool. But I'm missing the hook, the thing that would make me want to click in here. And then coming down here, I do see like you have some of this information here, like we're finding a home. The words are probably well written, and there's just like some experience gaps here. We talk about scroll jacking sometimes. I don't want that to be the hero of this, but right now your experience in like a user using your website, it's kind of a little bit odd scrolling around. The way I can never quite get to where I want to go because it always scrolls a little bit farther than I intend to. Like if I'll scroll and like it scrolls me a little bit farther. And then like even here, this information, like good images, good gifs here, not connected necessarily to any explanation of what I'm looking at or what the value is. And so I feel like across your website, your portfolio, we're generally just seeing a problem of you qualifying what we see and taking the time to hold my hand a little bit, so I can experience this and understand what I'm looking at without someone having to explain it to me on a phone call. I fully believe that if you were on a call with me and you're like showing me your website, this would all make sense, right? This seems like perfectly suited for this. You're like, yeah, take a look at this thing. I can tell you all about this screen, all about the reasons I did this. And that's great on a call. It's just not great when I'm here by myself. And for the most part, I experience the internet alone in my room by myself without you to guide me. And I think people who are visiting your website are experiencing the same thing, where they come here, they don't have enough guidance, enough anchoring to realize the value or who you are inside that value. Is that okay? Is it okay feedback so far?
No, no, that's very useful and something that I've also given a thought to actually. So yeah, and maybe like if I could add a little bit as well as like a quick question. So I've been branding myself as like basically a designer that could ship end to end with a personality, so to say. So the reason that I rebranded from like my org portfolio, which was full of like case studies and stuff, into this one is basically because that I want to make that like my thing and my niche, you know. But like at the same time, like I also got some notes that like the current one now reads like as very UI first, like very light on the why behind the decisions, which was not the case with my previous portfolio. And I'm curious if that's part of like the same positioning issue that we were talking about, and like, uh, is it something that's better to be said like basically like literally like I put that somewhere in on my site, basically like, oh yeah, here's what I can do, like these things, and these things, so to say.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I'll give you two quick things. Quick thing number one, sometimes you have to try something to know it's the wrong thing. So
Mhm.
if you're saying you're trying both of these, if one of them is working better than the other way, worth leaning into the one that works for you better. The
Mhm.
second thing is that sometimes people give bad advice. And it's possible that the advice you received to remove your process and thinking was bad advice. It's also possible though that Nate and I are about to give you bad advice and saying you should add some thinking and process back to your site. When it comes to like you want to communicate, you gave us a great statement there. You're like, yeah, I'm a designer who can design and ship with a personality. And like right there, you're already giving us your statement and like some of your positioning there. However, I don't see that here. Like nothing here says, yes, I design and ship and do it with personality. I might see the personality element. I have some images back here. I don't know what they mean. Like, I don't know what this painting means. I don't know what this illustration means. I don't know what this real photo, I'm assuming of you, maybe means. I guess I see UI here. I see a magazine. There's things I'm missing about like I don't know how to look at this yet. And so I think even in the world where you're like, I want to be so strong in my personality first. Like I want a loud or maybe like a hand-drawn personality, a wonderful position to take. You can be wildly successful or unsuccessful depending how you but you have like the opportunity for huge success with this. You just have to give us the right frame. So I would argue you still need something up here that like basically gives us like a small, you got to give us just a little bit of a bone here. Something that tells us what to look for and what I should be like hoping for as I experience this website. And then you can lean into all the personality you want, or take your individual niche as long as I know what niche I'm looking at. And so
Mhm.
I don't. I'd hazard that. I don't know. What do you think, Nate?
I want to yes and something there. For context here, Vincent, I went to college for marketing. I could talk about positioning for a long time, and this is a subject on which there are books dedicated to, right? Uh,
Yeah.
Tim, pull up my own website here as a contrast. So when it comes to positioning, know that the goal of positioning, and this is a phrase my old marketing instructor used to say, the goal of positioning is to own a piece of real estate in a person's mind. Now, I think that's a good comment. I don't like that there's an Americanism in there. So if I were to tweak it slightly, it would be the goal is to own a perception in someone's mind. Now, if we were to compare our two websites and have a linear scale here of niched on the right hand side and broad on the left hand side. What the way Tim's got us, we're gonna have niche on the left hand side and broad on the right hand side.
Mhm.
I would say that you and I are the extreme opposites of that spectrum. So if we compare my website, for example, here, I'm in the healthcare space. I target very specifically enterprise, healthcare, agile, decentralized product orgs. I've got a real grand specific niche, and my entire website is dedicated to that particular niche. The aesthetic of my website is white, gray, and blue. It's fairly sterile in nature. Earlier, Kelsey, who we were talking with earlier, she was saying that her website has a boring aesthetic. My website has a boring aesthetic because I am targeting healthcare. It's a boring aesthetic kind of industry. So, like, based on my particular niche, my entire website's verbiage and aesthetic and positioning is dedicated to that industry. So, if we were to contrast that to your website, I would say you've got the opposite conundrum here of it's so broad, I don't know where to put it. And because it's so broad, like all the rest of the stuff we could talk about, the aesthetics, the verbiage you talk about, what kind of case studies you make, I don't feel like we're targeting anything just yet. So I have no objective criteria by which to provide feedback, enabling you to find success in any direction. That Tim said something I thought was really impactful earlier, and that was you had a statement. It was something like, I am a product designer that tells stories with personality,
Yeah.
or something like that. Like adding that
Yeah. Yeah.
statement to the very top would be a huge would be growth for like figuring out how to position yourself. I think the more we can position yourself, the more effective we can make your site. And I think the positioning is the big missing piece for the moment, which circles back to
Mhm.
your very original comment. Like, was this a positioning
Yeah.
problem? That was like the first sentence you said. And I think the answer
Yeah.
is yes.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. How are you feeling about all of that?
No, yeah, I think it's basically like if I can be like very very blunt, like I will probably like come here like it's kind of bad, but like I came here like seeking validation if that's right or not, and yeah, I would say that it's also been lingering in my mind for some time, but like again, like I don't have really enough sample to say things whether things are right or wrong. Like you said, like people may sometimes like give you bad advice and stuff. So like I was planning on like my next actionables have been like, oh yeah, I might be making like an A/B test version of for like a version of it that's more like literal, so to say. So I think that's one part of my actionables going into like my next phase of my portfolio as well. So
Nice, man. Portfolios never end. We're always working on them. It's a never ending story. Love that your goal here is to just to carry on and keep building it. I think that's the right approach.
mhm, yeah.
Tim, I'm looking
So
at the
I
clock.
think
Any last words on your side?
I love I do think you're gonna have to pick between these. Like some of this UI work you've done does not mix well with the illustration work. So
mhm,
just watch out. Make sure that your portfolio goes where you want to go and is not necessarily everywhere you've ever been. I think we've
mm,
already said that once, but like I know it's the temptation is like I do illustration work, which is wonderful. I do UI work, which is also wonderful. I should therefore put them both on here. And there's a way to make it work. And there's sometimes it doesn't work out. I don't know which way it's going to go for you. I do think it's probably is going to work out since you've incorporated design your illustration work into here. But I would just caution that if you're running out into some walls as you're choosing your positioning, sometimes positioning is about what you don't choose, not just what you do choose, but sometimes about what you deliberately remove or not choose. And so just kind of keep an eye out for that as you're deciding where you want to go. Sometimes it's not going to be fully representative of everywhere you've ever been.
yeah, got you. Thank you so much. Like it's been very useful.
Hey, appreciate you being willing to hop on the call with us. I've got one last thing written down, a very quick bullet. It doesn't look like your site currently works in Firefox. You may already be aware of it. Just figured I'd pass it on.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you so
Hey,
much for the advice. I'll hop off now.
yeah, appreciate you being willing to chat with us. All right, next.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure. Next on the list, we've got Suneha and Marcus and Ria. I'm so sorry, Suneha is going to be the last person we have time for today. Would love to see you back next Friday. If you're hopping on the call a little bit late with us, we do this every Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific time. Would love to see you at our next Friday. Suneha, welcome.
Hey, hello. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, hi. Can we do it a little differently? I was thinking can we start with a 30-second test probably as a hiring manager or a recruiter? I don't want to give any introduction about me. It's like you don't know me and you just see the portfolio and see how it looks and what you feel.
I will chase that with one pushback, which is your
Yeah.
resume. Do you have a resume we can look at and scan and then jump in? Because almost always people approach your website with a bias based on information that's been handed them from someone else.
It's on my portfolio. You can check it out.
It's okay. We are live streaming. It's okay if we open it up.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay. We'll do this true blind.
Let's
Give
do two
me
things.
a
I'm
summary.
not going to look at your resume, so we're going to get both sides of the story here. I'm going to minimize my Discord.
Amazing.
We'll do a true blind test. We'll just do the AI summary, and then we'll jump in. Okay.
Now we get all the awkward silences when we don't have the intro. I'm going to walk you through. So I'm looking at the portfolio as Tim's reading the resume. I'm going to walk you through my thinking as I approach the portfolio here. So I'm seeing product designer who ships revenue and growth features as a startup's sole designer. I'm hearing a little bit of a niche there, though it could be deeper. So immediately knowing that you're targeting a niche, I'm going to default to you are a mid-level or higher. But the fact that you're targeting startups means you are not junior. You followed up with 7 years, therefore mid to senior. Your case studies are starting with actionable results, grew invites, built for investor demo, free app to first revenue. You're leading with results. I'm now leaning towards senior. I'm reading the first case study. I'm reading the housekeeping. You lead with outcome. Fantastic. Okay. And now your case study is heavily UI oriented. So now I'm thinking senior level UI designer. And I'm not seeing any process. And that's where I think that's my final conclusion, senior UI. Tim, walk us through your thoughts.
Hey, replaying it, looking at the summary of the handoff that my fake hiring recruiter helper gave me, says, hey, this person is a product designer. They have at least 3 years plus 7 years prior in business. So this is someone who definitely knows their business management, but is working inside of UX design now, which is cool. They have some recent startup experience that's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. So especially Hayroom is something that stands out to me. I recognize that brand name. And then there's some cool achievements in here that make me, I guess, I have high anticipation. It seems very cool. Like I'm expecting to go see and look at someone's work that's very cool, that shows maybe like a good amount of strategy mixed in with their design work. I imagine someone who maybe was doing business and then accelerated themselves into design because they were doing strategy work and it became a little bit more tactical, and that tacticality led them into doing the hands-on work together. Uh, and opening their website, I don't want to be mean, but can I be blunt? Can I be direct?
You can be as blunt as possible.
Well, okay. We're not mean on Design Shaped. We're not mean on Feedback Fridays, but being blunt, I am a little bit let down. The visuals here for me don't really sell it, and I'm having a hard time identifying where to focus. Like the dark and the white often create weird contrast for me, especially when there's like large text sections. So I've got you, I see you here, nice. Product designer who ships revenue and growth features at a startup sole designer. That's an awesome statement. I haven't seen anything that like necessarily qualifies that. So there's a really big thing to claim right away. I do have your see work button. Getting down here, I have this image. It's hard to find where to click in, but there is a button here I can look at. But this is like it's very plain, very plain. So this makes me maybe doubt a little bit of some of like the award-winning part of it, doing product design for Hey Room, other people who have some of this like a little bit louder design elements. It feels like a mismatch between the resume and the portfolio, especially on the black text, the black screen here. Uh, I didn't read this because I didn't want to, so I read this. I saw you had this here. Cool. I jumped in here. I saw you have only 2 screens on here. Very unfinished looking to me. Scrolling down here, I saw this outcome. Fine. There's not again, I'm looking for way more here. This is like a big thing to claim here. I don't see any of the work or description for this outcome to put here yet. As I'm scrolling through here, um, some of these headers work for me. The storytelling is not always super clear though. Um, you have a lot of value that's being hidden that I don't want to take the time to look through. And then also these callouts feel very AI to me. So I kind of got around here where I was like, oh yes, there it is, the AI. You're using AI to prototype. I'm wondering if you use AI to write this. I don't know if it's really worth my time to read all of this content when I'm seeing not like deflections per se, but I'm just seeing like information stated without being qualified, and I don't see enough qualification almost anywhere for me to really believe some of your stuff here. And that was my experience.
Okay. Okay, understood.
That was
Sorry.
fun.
Yeah.
Tim, we haven't done that format before. Suneha,
I
first off on my
I
panel.
hate doing that format because it just feels so harsh. I'd rather be collaborative and work on the stuff that you already have a sense for. So, is there
No,
anything
but
in there
no, but
that you're already aware of you'd want to talk about or work through? Because we
yes,
don't
yes,
want to just
definitely.
be, gut reactions are cool, but not like the thing. Like that's not the deciding factor.
Yeah, no, it's actually very important for me, for you to be honest, because I'm actually actively applying for full-time jobs. I'm working as a freelancer, but I'm applying for full-time jobs in Berlin, Germany, and my target is to get a job by September. I know it's not very easy target, but I'm going for it completely full on. So actually, when said that your portfolio looks like a senior UI designer, I found it as a compliment because I'm still building upon my UI skills. I'm a self-taught designer, and that is something I'm working on daily, I would say. But if it looks like that, thanks for that. I think I'm going in the right direction. But coming on to your comment, Tim, I completely agree that the resume, I'm actually checking my Google Analytics nowadays. I updated the portfolio just 10 days ago, and I'm seeing a lot of traffic on my portfolio, but I'm getting rejections and I'm not getting interview calls. So I can understand that my resume is doing well, but my portfolio, hello, but my portfolio is not doing that great. So, but I'm also not very sure that how to go about it. Like you said that the visuals are not looking very clean or something, but that's the actual visual. Like this is the exact app I worked on. I worked on one segment of the app, so I'm showing the exact app, exact pictures. So yeah, hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
let me give feedback on my description first, and then you'll have to repeat the question for Tim likely in a moment here. I mentioned senior level UI. Where my mind was at with that is you've got the title product designer in your hero, and then you've got a lot of
Mm,
outcomes on your effort. Uh, I don't want to.
yeah.
What I'm trying to get to here is that it wasn't because I thought the UI was high level. It was because I wasn't seeing
Mhm.
UX work. Therefore, I defaulted downward to UI. So the idea is,
Okay.
in your case study, I wasn't seeing a lot of like the strategy sections that UX or product designers would typically look for. And because of that, I defaulted back to UI. And that I thought made more
Mhm.
sense given that you were showcasing screens as opposed to a lot of the process along the way. So, like,
Mhm.
totally not to. Uh, I don't want to say that your UI isn't fantastic, but that's the reason why I was pointing more toward UI, less of the UI that you have, and
Understood.
more of like the less uh, UX or product design context I was expecting. Is that making sense? How's that sound?
Mhm. No, it's making sense. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And we've got a graphic for this too. Uh, After Tim provides, ask the question again to Tim, and then we'll open up that resource that I was describing.
Um, yeah. So, yeah, my question is mainly basically like I'm getting the traffic on my portfolio. I can see that clearly on Google Analytics, but I'm not getting interview calls. And last month I got, but that was for junior positions. I'm not very much interested in those. So I'm not sure how to balance it out. The pictures the images you mentioned about that it's not looking very clean, but that's the actual product I worked on, and I worked on one part or one segment of that product. So I'm not sure how to go about it because that's a real product.
You're currently muted.
I cannot hear you.
You're right. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. First of all, again, one reason we don't like doing this type of feedback is because it is based on like our gut reaction and is not meant to make anyone defensive or put anyone on the attack. So again, this is not questioning the merit of the quality of your work or trying to make you feel uncomfortable with presenting any sort of UI here. But the reality is that dark mode websites are difficult because of contrast and competing attention. Some people like dark backgrounds, but from a UI perspective, we see that white often gives a better sense of cleanness, of like airiness, and of spatial, like cognitive. Uh, I'm running out of words here. It gives more room for cognitive focus by helping us
Mhm.
perceive the space better. And so, like even turning this to white, this becomes a lot more readable. I wouldn't do a pure white, but that black is really like that black is really heavy. It's very, very heavy, and this white is like hard for me to focus on. I just don't like looking at it. So when I'm talking about
Yeah.
like, is it clean? Does it look nice? There's a sense of like it's very heavy and very dark and very plain. Like you've chosen a color, and the color was black, and like that's the color
Mhm.
you're communicating your personality through here. Which in some places does work if that's the vibe you're going for, and for me, it just doesn't land with the type of work you're doing. Now, getting in specifically
Mhm.
to this case study, when we're talking about this UI, you have to contextualize anything you show a user, right? And so, like, even if this was an incredible design, having this, which is blue, gray, purple, white, with these buttons on here, it doesn't match anything on your website here. Right? So, like, there's
Mhm.
a disconnect here of you showing me something that feels just out of place. And even jumping in here, it's not necessarily about that like these screens look unfinished. Is that the placement of them doesn't feel intentional. It's a weird layout. You have a left aligned layout over here. Let me get this out. So like this is all left aligned, and then this is like not left aligned. And so like
Mhm.
just even moving this to be left aligned and maybe adding some additional content over here, like would help the space here. Makes it feel more intentional. So like there's like layout challenges that you're experiencing. And just it feels I mean, it's so hard to look at this. Like, look how far apart this is. This is like a roll. This is team. These are rows. The distance between this text and this text is kind of massive. Like two different columns, so far away. And then, like even looking here
Mhm.
for outcome, like this looks like a bullet point or like a note. No spike in onboarding drop off, but like nothing here that qualifies or like tells me why I can trust this or why I can believe it. In fact, you haven't even introduced what the thing was. You're saying here was the outcome, but what exactly did you do? I'm missing context here.
So
So, what I'm saying, like, it
basically,
feels out of
understood.
yeah, what I'm saying, it feels out of
Basically,
place or doesn't feel clean. These are the things I'm talking about.
okay. Okay.
I've got a thing I want to talk about. Are you able to provide a little clarity first on are you targeting product design roles?
Yes.
Got it. And what's the level of role that you're wanting to target?
Mid to senior level.
Okay, cool. Tim, if you're willing, hop over to Design Shaped, and I want to go to the visualization that showcases the differences in UX versus UI versus product. Very bottom one. Um, so here's where my mind is at. Am I pronouncing Suneha correctly?
Suneha. Yeah.
Suneha. Here's more of the mental model that I had when judging judging your portfolio. So if we look at this graphic here, the headers are we've got UI designer focused on interfaces, UX designer focused on user problems, product designer focused on business problems. As I'm going through your case studies, I'm seeing terminology as if you're targeting user and business problems, but then the case studies weren't showcasing any of that strategy. The case studies for me were showcasing just like the final outputs of things, which is awesome if one's goal is to target UI design. If your goal is to target more UX design, I want to see more of those like user problems, which you have in those titles. We're just missing some of the meat in how you went about identifying those user problems and prioritizing those user problems. And then if you wanted to elevate like more into product designer, I would want to see more business problems. Like what are the constraints that the business was working with? What was the funding associated with it? How did you prioritize the business conundrums into smaller pieces? How did you work with stakeholders and manage a team? Like those are the kind of things I'd more be looking for a senior product designer role. How are you feeling about that so far? Is all that making sense, or any resistance to any of that?
Actually, the thing is, I'm actually, if you read the case study, I'm sure like it's not visible right now, but that's the kind of thing I wanted to convey through my case studies. The business, the decision making I did with the founder directly, and the pushback I did with to the founder, and how I worked with the developers, how I was part of that, upper management, the main stakeholders like CEO, CXOs, but if that's not visible, like that's surprising for me, then I have to definitely work on the case study format or layout, something like that, because I felt that I am showing the process more than UI. I'm showing the UX and product part more. This was my feeling.
Got it. Okay, cool. So what I'm hearing is you've done all of that, and now there's just a communication mismatch, which is a great problem to solve. Fantastic. Do you have any concerns with how you might go about resolving that?
I would love to hear from you. Like, if you maybe you just open one case study and then we can quickly go through it. What is missing? What is not being communicated properly?
Yeah, let's take a look at the first one here, Tim. Making the invite feature visible. So, uh, there's a lot of different directions we could take conversations like these. A lot of it boils down to what kind of team environment do you have? A lot of it boils down to the methodology that one uses. What I'm looking more for here is the reasoning by which you've solved. You're targeting. Let's continue the conversation knowing that you're targeting senior product design. Is that accurate?
Yeah, mid to senior, yeah, I would say. But for startups, I don't think for companies, bigger companies with bigger teams, I don't think they would hire me. They would definitely hire somebody with 10 plus years of senior experience. Like 10 plus years of experience. I don't have that in design. I have that in design plus business.
Got it. All right, cool. Dope. So I'm looking at this case study then. This is a project for a startup, I'm hearing. And then you've got an
Yes.
interesting thing here at the very top in your housekeeping section. You've got constraint, and that constraint is no incentive budget. Now, that's an interesting constraint, and constraints in general are what I'm kind of looking for in the case study here. Like, I really care about what are the problems that you're identifying and how did you go about solving those problems. Can you tell me more about what the constraint means, no incentive budget?
So it was basically related to the feature, and now I'm like understanding that it won't be conveyed that way because it's particularly talking about the feature that like in other apps when we click on invite friends or something, there is always an incentive like reward something, 50 euros or whatever dollars or whatever, a card or etc. But in this case, the founder told me that we are not giving any incentive, we are just making this feature and we want it to perform and we want conversion without giving any reward to the user for clicking or inviting their friends or family.
Let me repeat this back to you. I think what you're
Yeah.
saying is the application itself was failing in conversions, and your objective was to increase conversion rate. Is that sounding right to you?
Yes, and that's why I wrote making the invite feature visible. It was not visible at all, and we had zero conversion.
Dope. So, let's start at high level here. The problem that you're trying to solve is increasing conversion rate. There are a lot of different directions you could go to solve that problem. How did you figure out that building the feature? What was the feature called? What was the name of that feature you just mentioned?
I didn't build the feature; it was already existing. I changed the placement and I redesigned it in a way that it is more visible and brings in conversion.
Got it. Okay. So where I'm going with this is increasing conversion rate is an awesome problem. What you've got here, I think, is the solution to that problem. Is that accurate?
Yep.
And so what I'm looking for now is like, how did you go about figuring out what that solution was going to look like? Like, who were the users that you're trying to target? How did you align with your stakeholders? Knowing it's a startup, it's a smaller team. How did you align with the stakeholders that was the problem that needed prioritizing? Like, we're missing some of the. You've got the problem that you're trying to solve. We've got the final output, and I feel like I'm missing all the steps on how you got to that final output.
Mm-hmm. So the thing is, I started understanding what the feature is all about, and right now where it is placed in the app and why is it not performing. So understanding from the founder what is happening, and then I connected with the developer, and we talked about that using Google Analytics, like what is happening, like nobody is clicking on it on the particular feature. So then I started understanding, okay, this is the constraint, these are the constraints, like I have this app, this is the onboarding, and this can be the placement, possible placement. So for example, the entry point, because the main problem was how the user discover this feature, they're not able to discover it. So making that discover part more visible, more easier for the user. So I put that in the onboarding itself because it made more sense, because the user is invested during the onboarding and they click instantly on this invite invite interface. So that was the idea.
Cool. I love the rhetoric. Is there, knowing that we're targeting product design, do you have any methodologies of incorporating business metrics into that, for example? Like,
I don't have a framework, but it's more about understanding what the business goals are. What are we doing here? So here the main problem was that the main thing was that the founder wanted a network effect for the product, right? So he wanted more user conversion. It's more like word of mouth. Like we are saying word of mouth physically, but in the product how it works. So it works through invites, and invite is something which doesn't work in any of the product. We hardly click on invites, right? So he wanted to make it in a way that it works. So I'm sorry, what was your question? Did I miss on it?
no, so part of these
Did I answer?
questions, like we can continue the conversation, but part of these questions is also me fishing for more context of the problem that you're trying to solve in the context of the case study. And as you're describing things, there are other questions coming to mind. Like now, where my mind is at is increasing conversion rate is great. Like that's a phenomenal problem that needs solving for sure. And now I'm curious if that was part of a greater business problem in which increasing conversion rates is a factor of. So like if you were targeting UX design, I think I'm okay with targeting increasing conversion rate. But if you're targeting product design, there's like their business goals there that I'm missing out on. And that's the elevation that I'm
So,
trying to fish for.
so let me quickly tell this. Like business goal was majorly the investor meeting. So they had this investor meeting coming up, and they wanted to show revenue, which is another case study wherein I helped them generate their first revenue. The second was this, like where the investor can see, okay, they are bringing more users to the product. The product is performing. I can invest happily in this product. It's more like that.
All right, cool. Well, that's along where my mind is at. I think for me, I'm missing some of that process oriented stuff there, some of that more senior level dedicated uh, product management. So I'm thinking like, how did you go about aligning stakeholders on a particular team? How did you delineate which problems you're going to solve in your decision making regarding increasing conversion rates? Like, what are the different tactics that you potentially trialed and errored in regard to increasing conversion rates? That's where my mind is at. If your goal is to target UX, I think you're doing well on your way there. I don't know if I have anything else to add there, Tim. That's where my mind is currently at. Any additional feedback on your side of things?
I'm approaching your portfolio and rewriting it actively. Because again, Nate and I are not here to question the quality or the efficacy of the product or the work that you did. No one here is saying this project is not good or that you made the wrong decision or essentially wondering, what the heck was going on. And so I do want to get that out of the way just in case there is any combativeness there. What I but what Nate and I are saying is that right now the story you're telling is not mapping to the value that you're trying to attach for yourself. If you want to be perceived as a senior level candidate, talking about this project, even in the reality of imperfect situation or a team that didn't quite work with you or unrealistic demands or whatever the situation is, learning how to frame that and talk about it in a way that is supportive of where you want to go is the key thing here. And so instead of talking about, for example, there's no incentive, right? There's no incentive for users to invite friends. Framing this as like, yes, this is a feature with no visible benefit to the user. And how do we position this so it gets used a little bit more? And then being able to explain your thought reasoning. How to identify like what did I do to make sure to identify one that there's a problem? Like maybe this is just the way it is. Or did we think, yes, this is a case study or this is reasoning that tells us that yes, we think something's probably wrong with this, or how are you measuring your success here, and being able to share that in a way that puts ownership on you, not your team, but still tells us the story of your thought process and your reasoning, is typically one of the things that helps to set senior level candidates and talent apart. It's not like, again, when we're talking about things like there's not really a magic bullet here. There's not like a, oh, this is the one thing you need to fix. But kind of looking at this overall, I'm just not seeing that for me, right? So like making the invite feature visible is not really a great title that tells me, one, what is the work that you did that you owned? Why should I care about it? What was the impact? And then who was it for? Right? This is there's just so much missing here that I don't see. And then making the information easy and accessible for me to read and scan through is also part of it. And then even when you do share information, making sure you can qualify it and tell me the process of coming to these conclusions and making me believe 100% that you are the greatest designer of all time, because surely you are, at least here, at least right here, you should be the greatest designer of all time because you solved this problem for these people. This team needed you to do this. You did the work. You have the outcome. I now you just have to convince me how you started and how you got there. And that even like translates to, like, for example, these images up here. I'm not saying you should remove these images, or maybe you should, but like showing this image here, um, what is the value I should be taking away from this? Like, what is my understanding as someone who is visiting your website for their very first time? What am I taking away from this image? How is this image teaching me something about how you're a very good designer or how you solved a problem? And I would just be looking for that kind of information.
Okay, understood. Now, can I ask a question?
Go for it.
Yeah. Um. So, you mentioned like hardly people, recruiters, they don't have time. Of course, they don't read the whole case study. they will not read the process and all of that. So at first glance, uh, is it not good enough for the first glance? I'm just trying to understand what is like going on and to improve further.
Yeah. Okay. So if we look, let's just anchor really quickly. When we're talking about your metrics of success, which is that you perceive that you are not getting interviews. Let's just look through this really quickly. If we go through this whole thing, you want a job. We're gonna get rid of this. You apply to a job. There's an ATS system. At some point, it goes to a human. It goes to a second human. Sorry, I'm particular about making things the right balance. It goes to a human. After this, it goes probably to a team lead. Maybe a cross team lead after that. This would be like engineering team, right? You might have a marketing team or PR team or something. Then you might have a team task. After your team task, you might talk to the what's it called? You might talk to an executive, right? You might talk. I'm going to put CEO. You might talk to someone who's in the company who's ownership, and then they like you and they give you an offer. And this is generally what you're looking at. Now, if we reframe this, human two is often a HR specialist or a like project manager, someone who's like a very like a strategy person here. Human one, often a recruiter. Now, of course, the org that you apply to, this can change a little bit. The structure is not always the same. Let's look at numbers. You apply to a job. How many people apply to jobs? And we're being like super serious here. It can be thousands. It can be like 2,000 people applying for the same job. The ATS has to filter that down. ATS filters it down. This human recruiter does not have time for 1,000 people. They may not even have time for 100 people. So we're just going to softball and we're going to say 50 people. This recruiter will look at 50 people. They now have to hand off a certain number of people to the HR person. This HR person does not have time for 50 people. They might have time for like 20 people or something. And then from here, how many people do you think this HR person wants to hand off to the team lead? Well, they are not going to interview 20 people. They might interview 10 people. Out of those 10 people, they might choose like four people that they're a valuable team member with this team lead who's like doing a lot of work, has time to talk to. And then of these people, maybe like the top two get to go with the engineering team because you don't want to bother engineering team. Engineering teams are very expensive for companies. They're very cognizant of that. After that, you typically are sticking with the same two because you have a high degree of confidence. And then from here, typically it's one person gets here. So when we're looking at this process, we have to decide where is the first interview. Interview one happens sometimes here and sometimes here. Now let's look at what is everyone evaluating here. The ATS system is looking at your resume. It's not going to look at your website. The recruiter is also looking at your resume, and not just your resume, by the way, the job description. Right? That's all they have to go off of. They don't know you. They don't know how to look at a portfolio to decide what matters. They're looking at these two things. This HR person is going to look at the job description. They're also going to look at your resume. They also will finally check out your website. This is where your portfolio starts to matter. So if we put portfolio up here. We have like a little bit of vibe, but this HR person does not really know what a good portfolio looks like. They just know that there's like some vibes. Team lead does not want to look at your resume. They're just going to look at your portfolio. And then guess what? Do you think the engineering guy wants to look at your portfolio? He does not. So this is where we're going to talk about just tell me about etc. I had this happen like 100 times. They don't want to look at your portfolio. They're just going to chat with you. You might show it in the call, but in general, this is going to be just you. So if we look at the drop off points here, 1,000 people go in, 50 people come out. The percentile drop here is massive. That is, Nate, what is it? Is this like 0.5% success?
Are you
that
really
what that number
throwing a
is?
math question my direction?
We're at less than 1% success here. That's just the resume and the job description. Just the resume. And then even saying, what if all 1,000 people are qualified? Like, what if all 1,000 people actually are really qualified and deserve this job? That's still only 50 people. Maybe we can even round it to 100. We can say 100. If there's 100 people go through, 1% success rate here. Then they go to
You'll
this
correct in the
recruiter who's
chat.
going to look at the
It
job
would
description,
be
the resume.
10%.
it would be 5%.
It would be 5%.
10%. Yeah, 5
Okay,
and 10.
10% of 100. Yep. Okay, cool. Math is wrong. We'll just put that right there. And I'll just get rid of this. Boom. Thank you for correcting me. So you're going here, got a recruiter. Then you go here from 50 to 20. That's much higher, right? That's like, it's got to be close to like 42-ish percent, right? Right in that realm. It's pretty close. Pretty close there. Maybe it's just actually, is it just straight 40%? Might be just straight 40, going from 50 to 20. When you look at all these drop-off numbers, the number is significantly less. And if this is your first interview, what you're really tracking is the amount of success from this point to this point to get to your first interview. And sometimes this doesn't count as an interview because this is actually just a phone call. This is a phone call, and then sometimes this is your first interview. If your metric of success is I'm applying to jobs and I'm not getting interviews, it is probably not your portfolio that's doing the thing. It's probably your resume. It's probably your resume and your fit for the job description. That's just like looking at how the math breaks down here. And then the other thing here is like looking at this like 1,000 here, right? Um, like it's just sometimes you're going to be the right person and they just don't pick you. And so you have to apply to a lot of jobs, right? To get your success, you have to go really high up. You'd have to have a
But
lot of applications here. And so you're going to need, anytime you're doing this strategy, you need high volume. You need to be very like on target. You need to be the right fit to be competitive. Your resume has to be well crafted. Then when you finally get to this stage here for recruiter and HR, you have to be able to handle a portfolio that merits a phone call. And then your communication skills have to be very good. And then you get that interview. That is going to be your thing. Um, Spending the time on your portfolio is worth it. It is good. It's a good thing to do. However, redesigning your portfolio over and over in the hopes of getting more interviews is probably the wrong strategy. Instead, spending the time on your resume, making sure this is crafted correctly, making sure that you're applying to the correct jobs as well, also matters a lot. And then making sure you have the right volume and velocity inside of your application strategy also really, really impacts this because your portfolio is doing heavy work, but usually not until like this like first like craft based interview here, right?
Mhm, understood.
So just make sure you measure your success correctly. You know what you're looking at. You know your story. Also, just putting it out there, like where is this? We say this all the time that like strong writing can carry mid design. That's to say that if your writing is really good, your storytelling is very strong, even if it looks kind of mediocre, that's okay. But if you have bad writing, it can't carry. It just doesn't. So if you have to focus on one of these, spend the time in your writing, on your position, your storytelling, because this helps. Like the strong writing helps everywhere. It helps this whole pipeline here. It helps you be a good communicator. Whereas the good design, we love a good design, but that part doesn't even matter till you're already in the interview process, maybe. And when you're telling them about your work or you're showing them your work, then that starts to matter. But even then, the strong writing, the good communication strategy carries all of these all the time. And we'll see that you'll see this pattern that there's tons of people out there who are just really good at explaining themselves and succeed. It's just the explaining and the writing part, even when it doesn't necessarily look the best. Nate's familiar with this in healthcare, right? In healthcare, it's all about did you do the explaining well, the writing well, the correct, like all that correctly, versus does it look like $1 million design? We love $1 million design, but the writing and the communication goes farther.
Mhm.
I haven't
The
built very
changes you
many.
made, I can, yeah,
Sorry, I was making
changes
a
you
phone
made,
call.
I can it's okay. Sorry. The changes you made in the portfolio copy, I can access it in FigJam. Where did you?
It's just here. I mean, it's just in my local. So if I was gonna
Maybe I
It got a
can
little
take a.
bit it got a little bit malformed. There you go.
Okay,
This
thank
section
you.
got malformed. I don't know exactly what happened here when I did a copy
Yeah,
or not a copy, but
no
a
worries, no worries.
cut. It took that. But focus on these narrative beats. Focus on your
Mhm.
ownership, and focus on like exactly the decision you need them to take away. If I read one paragraph, what is the decision I need them to understand? One, uh, you're not talking about incentives. Incentives are great, but does not matter to the product thing. I don't need to know what you tried and didn't work necessarily. I need to know what is the problem you're working on. Problem number one you're working on, how do we frame this correctly? Then you talk about what am I doing to frame things correctly? Then, how did you come to a decision? You're doing an activity. I'm doing this activity so I can understand how to solve the decision better. Um, that kind of writing is a little more effective for this stuff. So
Understood.
Suneha, I'm looking at the clock. We are well
Yeah.
beyond our scheduled end time. How are you feeling so far? Do you feel like you've got any sort of actionables, or was all of this real high
No,
level?
no, completely, completely. Thanks for the feedback. This is what I feel like I can improve upon. Definitely the storytelling part and the communication. Um, yeah. Apart from that, I can have a look on my resume also once again. Thing is missing, or yeah. And also, of course, you mentioned about the volume. I feel like it's been just like 10 days I started applying to the companies. So I need to apply more and more, and then see how it goes.
you started applying 10 days ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Um, you should also know that this process here can be 60 to 90 days. So
Mhm.
if you started applying 10 days ago, I would
Mhm.
expect you probably have gotten auto rejections from this ATS system, but probably not even all the ones you've applied to. Um, so
Okay,
just
yeah,
keep that in mind too, that there's a big lead time here. There's no quick way in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had an interview
Thank you so
like a month ago,
much.
and they were hiring for 4 months from now. Isn't that wild? So much time.
Well, there's a lot of coordination that happens here. A
Clearly.
lot of people have to get involved. A lot of decisions have to be made. They build in lead time because, looking at this many candidates takes a ton of time to do. And then they have to make sure it works with team schedules and product schedules. I mean, it makes sense, and it's also ridiculous that it has to make sense that way too.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. By the way,
Especially
chat,
for startups, yeah.
Chat, I was gonna.
Sorry, go
You're
ahead.
totally fine. Chat, I was gonna say, folks are often surprised when I tell them I'm applying for jobs, even though I've already got a job. Never stop applying for jobs, folks. Always be passively applying in the background. Both Tim and I are firm in our positions and are always applying elsewhere as well. Suneha, I cut you off.
Yeah, especially startups. I mean, like startups, I don't understand, like, especially in Berlin, like I'm targeting startups. So when I'm applying to those, I assume and I expect that the process would be much faster. But my experience was completely different. Like the process was too long for 2 months and with like 5, 6 rounds. And then ultimately like getting a rejection mail after the last round. So it's kind of terrible. But I think it's the industry situation right now across the globe.
Certainly a conversation there as well. Suneha, pleasure talking with you. Really appreciate you being willing to hang out with us for the last 45.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
That's going to do it for Feedback Friday today, at least from the review section. Tim, did you want to hang out and do some Q&A, or should we call it there? We've gone quite some time already.
I think I have exhausted my social battery.
I understand. I understand. Folks, been a pleasure hanging out with you today. We will see you next Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll drop a link to our YouTubes in the chat just in case anybody here doesn't have it. Feel free to subscribe to get notified for the new ones, the backwards ones, the forwards ones, the ones. That's all I got. Appreciate all you being here. Tim, good seeing you.
It's good seeing you too, Nate. I'm gonna I'll probably message you. about this resource I've got to go build that we've been talking about for ages. It'll be good. It'll be a good time. So
Let's do it. It'll be fun.
Cool. See you around, guys. Thanks for being here. If you guys have feedback, feel free to let us know. Give us a shout. We'll see you around. If you had your portfolio review today, we hope it was helpful. Feel free to come back. We'll do this as many times as you will tolerate us? Question mark, maybe. And if you feel like we've said anything that was totally wrong, also feel free to give us corrections. As we know, 100 is 0.01% of 1,000, obviously, because that's how math works. JK, because it's not. So let us know, and we'll see you guys we'll see you guys around. Farewell.